A very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight on the agenda. My name is Toivo Njabela. Tonight we are talking basic income grant. Of course, there was a march last weekend in Windhoek and other parts of the country where people, it was primarily in Windhoek, of course, and it was about the demand by the Basic Income Grant Coalition that each Namibian, including yourself, and $500 per month, irrespective of your status. It is an attempt, according to the advocates of the initiative, to reduce the high levels of poverty in the country. To help us unpack the topic tonight is Tjipura Tjipura. He's a researcher at the Basic Income Grant Coalition Namibia, as well as Dr. Omu Kakujaha, who is an economist and also an academic in that field. Tjipura, thank you very much for making time.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes. Doc, I hope you can hear me. Thank you for making time. Really, it's such an honor to have you on the platform.
Thank you, Toivo.
Wonderful. Tjipura, maybe, please, let's start with you. The march last weekend, if you can sum it up for us, what is it that you were marching for? What is it that you want to achieve with the march? What kind of key messages did you put out during that march?
Yeah, so from the beginning of the campaign, we had put in requests through the office of the president, to accept petitions that people have signed to show that people actually want the implementation of the basic income grant in Namibia. Yeah. And we have gotten a response from the office of the president, or Nangolo Mbumba, and then he referred Honorable Doreen Sioka to come collect these petitions. Mm-hmm. So initially, the petitions were to show that Namibians are really in need of the basic income grant, and the various issues they face, things like unemployment, hunger, and most importantly, our main aspect with regards to the basic income grant, especially the petitions themselves, were the focus of the youth, because they take a larger majority, of our population, and they are the ones affected, the most by poverty and unemployment and income inequality. So the march on Saturday was to show, government, or to show, everyone worldwide that people do need, the basic income grant. It was the march to end poverty. It was the march to end hunger, march to end, unemployment, in all the effects of unemployment in Namibia. So, fortunately, the outcome was great. Honorable, Doreen Sioka came there on time. She did receive the petitions, and I believe we have received the outcome that we've, been looking for with regards to the, to the petitions and the march at large.
Yes. But the ultimate outcome that you want, obviously, is the implementation of what you're demanding, isn't it?
Yes, the outcome is the implementation. The outcome is, for the government to consult with us with regards to, its implementation, because we did inform the government that as much as you did receive the petitions, we are giving them, at least until August, the first week of August. If they don't respond to us by the first week of August, in terms of, them wanting to consult with us or any response, we will have another, peaceful protest which will be held nationally, throughout, various other towns, not just Windhoek itself. Yes.
Absolutely. Doc, you had Tjipura just explaining the whole thing, what transpired and the demands, and this subject has gone on for so long, 19 years, if I'm right, because the initial conversations around basic income grant in Namibia started around 2005. 19 years later, we are still here demanding the same thing. When you hear this concept, these demands, Doc, as an economist and somebody with a very good aerial view of the Namibian economic situation, what comes to your mind?
Right. Thank you, Toivo, and our dear listeners, viewers. What the big coalition should try and do is to convince government about the benefits of a universal basic income grant. But let me start by applauding our government and commending our government on being one of the few African countries, maybe 1 out of 3, that is having a social protection system in place. And those are the grants, your old age pensions, the disability grants, the vulnerability children grants. So that is great. But it falls short. Many of our people are falling through that safety net. And that is where the big will come in. Let me quickly say, and that is the contention, is whether it should be conditional or unconditional, whether it should be universal or not. Those are the basic questions. Now, when we come here, so that I can stop and Mr. Tjipura can go on, the question is one of social justice versus the viability of paying a universal grant. That is the bone of contention, because when you hear a universal basic income grant, meaning that what the big coalition is saying is that Namibians from age 0 to 59 are excluded unless you are having a disability or you are a vulnerable child or so. Otherwise, you are excluded. So that is why the big coalition is saying, let's give everyone from the age of 0 to 59 500 Namibian dollars. How that will be funded, we'll come to that later.
So after your march, Tjipura, we spoke to some political parties this week, and one of them, PDM, for example, is of the opinion that the initiative is okay. They support basic income grant, but not the universal approach. They prefer a targeted approach that is aimed at specific people who really need that money. Why universal?
Let us first look at what is currently in place. We have social protection schemes that target particular individuals. Let us look at the pension grant. So the pension grant, mostly targeted to individuals above the age of 60 or 59 to say. So if you look at the coverage of the pension grant according to a particular household,
yeah,
you get a household that has a pensioner who takes care of, let's say 5 to 10 grandchildren, or not even grandchildren, 5 to 10 including her children or his or her children and the grandchildren. So in terms of coverage, you see that the basic income grant, the pension grant doesn't have coverage. And the various other grants which are conditional or have particular criteria in order for you to sort of like receive these grants don't have coverage. So what, in terms of universal, we mean that we want a holistic coverage of because there is multidimensional poverty. Because currently people don't just suffer from the lack of food or the lack of various the well-known poverty that everybody knows. Poverty is now multidimensional, where people struggle in various other ways. As much as one has a job, they won't have the necessary cab fares or the necessary funds to get from their home to the job. So in terms of it being universal, it's inclusive, because we don't need to test. It's not means tested. Someone shouldn't sort of like have a particular requirement in order for them to receive something that will empower them, also and amplify them. And also again, this also sort of like the administration of it is easier. It becomes easier for the government itself to also administrate these funds, because you don't have to go through a process where people have to apply, go through a process where now you have to go through these things and see, okay, is this person deserving of the social safety net, because also we should look at the urgency of it. As much as we have other grants, the urgency of a universal grant is visible. Because we're seeing that people are unemployed. As much as one is employed, also they earn a salary that's below 2,500, which is not enough. Because if you look at an individual's basket, or what they need per month is close to 1,800. So, I mean, the rest, of the disposable income would not cater for them, to say. So at least having, another form of income, which is the basic income grant, would assist individuals in, attaining their necessary, goods and services. So we should look at the agency of it. We should look at what is currently needed in our country is a universal basic income grant, because it covers, various, aspects with regards to poverty, and not just one aspect of poverty.
I hear you. So Doc, I mean, sentimentalism aside, really, is it practical, first and foremost, to the universal approach in particular? Do you think, for example, that what PDM is saying, that at least a targeted approach perhaps really aimed at those that need the most? I have a job, it doesn't pay me a lot, but I don't think I should get that $500. I wouldn't say no if it comes, but I don't need it. Sorry. What is your take? We have lost your. Did you mute your device? Because we can see that you are talking, but we can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you as well.
Yeah. No.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, now please proceed. Now we can hear you.
Okay, what I was saying is that we should quickly go back to 2002. That NAMTAX was commissioned by government. So that is later on, not with government money, they started the Osivero project. And then the Osivero project was universal. And they went and did, Uhuru Dembas and others went and did a, monitoring and let's say evaluation, and they came up with how positive that Osivero project, pilot project was. But now let's quickly come to why it should be universal and why universal is very, cost effective. What we look at is that if you, I want to bring a very weird or example here. Government yesterday or the day before yesterday announced that during this drought, a household that receives 3,200 Namibian dollars will be eligible to receive drought aid. How long is it going to take government to assess those who are earning 3,200? That is means testing, and that will take very long. Now let's come to the youth, for instance, who are having zero income. And you are saying, well, you are having zero income, but we are not going to give you anything. But you are a Namibian. How does it work? Toivo, one of the things that you raised is that the wealthy won't reach it. We go back to how NAMTAX proposed how it is going to work, this thing is going to work. Every Namibian is on the system, and every Namibian receives this 500. The 500, as NAMTAX proposed, it was to be through either VAT or a wealth tax. If it is VAT, if Toivo get his 500 and Tjipura gets the 500, when Tjipura goes and spend the 500, he or she is going to, let's say, proportionally and marginally, it is of course going to be something else, but he's going to spend, let's say, $5 or $50 on VAT. Here comes Toivo spending on that 1% or 0.05%, half percent that we added to VAT. Toivo is going to come and swipe for a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, and is going to pay something like $100,000 in tax. So the 500 that goes to Tjipura is based, to Toivo, the wealthy, or those ones who are receiving at least a decent salary, that will be recouped through that taxation. So that is basically why we are saying, if you are having a means testing, it will be very, very expensive. It will be fraught with corruption and favoritism. And I should quickly mention here before I stop, the so-called modified Harambee 2 basic income grant, where now individuals or beneficiaries of the food banks receive a cash grant of 600 or so. Now, what you are saying is that, well, I care for those ones, but for the youth who receives nothing, I'm going to give them nothing. That is the beauty of the universal income grant. And lastly, what I will say is that any good economist, and also the big coalition, what they should do. Look, the first thing you do is to eyeball the situation. Namibia's unemployment rate is hovering around 40%. Youth unemployment around 60 or 70. And that is eyeballing. You come back, you look at the political economy of Namibia. How did it come to that? You look at the resources. Who is controlling the resources? What resources is that country having? You move on to theory, be it neoclassical or Marxist, and say this is what is said, that if we do this, give the $500 to every Namibian, and this is how it is going to affect the economy. This is what the theory is going to tell us. But then again, lastly, you use big data. You use the CGE modeling, for instance, to show how the economy is going to behave. That is the laziness or either the incapacity of us as local economists and planners not to run CGE models to show the nation data-driven evidence to say that, no, it will work or won't work. So we should not be emotive, as Toivo have said, but we should prove that. And that is the capacity that we should build in the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Namibia, the National Planning Commission, as well as the big coalition and other civic institutions. Toivo, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Doctor, for your input there. Tjipura, I think a day or two, maybe 2 days, 3 days after your march on Saturday, I think on Monday there was a big event in the south where there's some uranium issues there, people wanting to mine there, and some people are saying, yes, let's go ahead with mining uranium, and the local farmers are saying, no, it will pollute our underground water reservoirs and whatnot. And then the governor of Omaheke, Honorable Pionganate, stood up of course he's in favor of the mining activities because he's talking about jobs that could emanate from that and whatnot. But as a side note, in fact, in driving his message home, he mentioned that there are serious hunger issues in Omaheke. He spoke about 26 children who died just in 6 months from malnutrition, and 46 who died during the same period, I think, the past year. These are very serious numbers of people dying essentially from hunger. Is this sort of, does it then fit into exactly what you're trying to avoid to say, look, as a country, we need to roll out some of these initiatives in order to avoid this kind of dangers?
Yes, definitely the basic income grant, one of our target is malnutrition. And in terms of feeding people, it's not just the basic pap, oil and rice that the food bank have rolled out, or the drought relief programs have rolled out. But from our studies, we've seen that nutrition is not just the basic traditional food that we've been knowing ever since.
Yeah.
Nutrition is a balanced diet, at least having fish, having mealie meal, rice, just not having the same constant type of food that you eat every day, because it's also not healthy for an individual. So with regard to the basic income grant, this would now because it's every person in the household that will be earning this money. Let's say in a household of 4 people, this is a $2,000, right? That's coming from government itself. So in terms of the affordability of food, these people will be able to afford this food, and it'll be a variety of type of food, because it's not just the basic food that you get. And also in terms of agriculture, because one of our advice to individuals is agriculture, and starting gardens and things like that. So as much as government teaches people on farming methods, how to farm, how to have a small garden behind your house, how will these individuals afford the tools, or the basics in just starting the garden, right? It's through a basic income grant. So a basic income grant is not just giving people free money, it's an enabler in various ways. Through agriculture, these people are able to afford these seeds or this equipment, and then through being able to afford the various types of food they need in order for them to sort of cater for their balanced diet, also the basic income will come in. So I believe it's not just as Doctor said, it's not just sort of it's not tackling one thing, it's tackling everything, the youth unemployment and various others. Yes.
Yeah. Before we go on a very short break, Dr. Kakujaha, another report similar to just the one that I mentioned is that, as a matter of fact, we heard on Monday that 26 children died in Omaheke alone from malnutrition. And then the Namibian newspaper reported, I think a day later, that 1.4 million people in the country are actually facing hunger, or they are essentially below the bread line, if you like. And that is highly, highly concerning. Do you think, therefore, like I asked Tjipura here, that an intervention like that could curb some of these scenarios?
Toriwo, let me quickly just say that renowned scholars all over the world has proven that universal basic income grant is beneficial, economic viable. That is, if you give that 500 to an individual, and we go back to Oshivero project, pilot project, for instance, that money creates more economic activity in the locality, and if it is nationwide, it is going to put that money in the economy, and that is going through the multiplier. That is someone starting a bakery, someone or a household starting with that money. Maybe they are $3,000 or 2005. They started activities. They didn't go and drink that. And that is stimulating the economy. And even your tax base is going to increase, and you are going to collect more money to plug the hole that you think has been taken by that. But since it is going to be VAT or wealth tax, and I'm, if we have time, going to look at the Namibian reality, and we look at 3. If we now quickly, before our break, come to the uranium mining, I should really say omake to Honorable Schleitwein, who put his foot down and say the Uranium One and their subsidiary here, they are going one day to pack their goods and go back to Russia and leave our water contaminated. They are going to destroy one of the prime agricultural areas. This is a transboundary water source, our aquifer. So that is nonsensical to say that it will bring jobs while you are killing another sector. Plus, we are having all the big uranium mines along our desert. Why did that not translate in jobs for every Namibian? It is because of our government's neo-colonial and imperialist capitalist mindset, where the multinationals are supreme. And mind you, how can you benefit from a resource that has been given to Russians? That is nonsense. The government, through the resources that we have in other parts, should take those resources to Omaheke through, for instance, the universal basic income grant, so that people can be functional, but not bring person to their doors. Toivo, thank you.
That is Dr. Kakujaha there, shooting from the hip. We will go for a small break and then return with both of them.
My Zone presents My Zone Schools Esports Competition.
Still possibilities.
Round 1, 3, 2, 1.
We have 50 minutes to go. Of course, yeah, no surprise there. That was always going to be a booking.
From deep three-point range, Green with the
Join us on the 27th of July at the MTC Innovation Hub for an action-packed day of esports excitement.
The show continues on the agenda. We are talking about basic income grant with Tjipura Tjipura and Dr. Omu Kakujaha. Now, the lingering question, Tjipura, is always, has any country in the world ever successfully implemented universal basic income grant, or will Namibia be the pioneer in that space?
So I think looking at countries like Finland, they have, tried with, implementing a basic income grant or a universal basic income grant.
Yeah.
And the results have shown that, it is a country with one of the best social safety nets. So I think it's something that we can learn from, because already Namibia, is one of the countries in Africa that has, one of, the working social safety mechanisms. So I think implementing a universal basic income grant as well would put us, higher on the radar as well. So Finland has, tried it, and our pilot study also was, one of the mechanisms other countries like Brazil as well have used in, doing research with regards to their, research with implementing a universal basic income grant. So I think in Africa we'll be one of, the first countries, and, it will set an example, to other countries as well, to see that a universal basic income grant is necessary, and it's feasible, it's practical, and can be done.
Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of practicalities, if my grandmother already gets her 1,600 per month, will this 500 be on top of that if we have orphaned children in the house who earn, I don't know how much they earn these days, maybe $300 or so, I think 600 very soon. Will that be on top of this? Because I'm trying to see if we are not duplicating things that are already being taken care of.
So I think in terms of the already existing grants, we're not discriminating that. We're not saying, they aren't sort of like doing, their due diligence. But what we want is coverage, full coverage for, all of the Namibians in all of the aspects. So the already existing grants like the child grant, which is I think now a 300, that 300, from what we've asked the locals and people that we spoke to, is that 300 caters for the whole house, because the mother is unemployed, the father is unemployed, so the two kids that are receiving this 300 is 600 caters for the whole house, which is not enough. So we see that if possible, grants like the child grant should and can be included within the 500, or which can be covered through the 500 as well. And then obviously the disability grant is it's a grant on its own. We don't have to modify that or change that. And the pension grant, because the basic income grant, what we advise is those from the age of 0 to 59. So already they have their coverage already. So our main target here is coverage, to see what is currently existing, and if we can include at least the child grant and put it through with the basic income grant and included it with within that. But as I said, the disability grant already has its own special coverage, with also the pension grant as well. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Doc, what we have seen in our country is a situation where leaders seemingly warming up to the idea of a basic income grant, but as soon as they are in a position to actually effect that, they develop cold feet. The late President Hage Geingob was known to be a friend of the BIG coalition for many years, especially because when this initiative started, he was not even in government. 2005, he was no longer in government, and he was seen as a friend of the coalition. He became a minister of trade after coming back from the USA, and then he started, not talking too much about that initiative again, became president, and went totally quiet on that. That is one example. The other is perhaps the most practical example then is that of Dr. Zephania Kamieta, who was actively involved in the coalition. And then he was appointed, ironically, as a minister of poverty eradication and other portfolios, and went stone silent also on this thing. Is it easier said than done? Is it something that sounds easy when you're outside the system, but once you are in and you can see the reality of what is in the coffers of government, then you realize that it's not practical?
Yes. Tjipura, thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, please proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. Tjipura, just a quick one on the uranium, and then I'll come back to your question.
Please go ahead.
What we should be wary of, that is those who are basically, including the Ministry of Agriculture, and the residents of that Dordabes area, or Mongwa and the like, that they should not trust what is called expert advice. Big farmers, that is pharmaceutical companies, as well as mining and other companies that are operating mostly mining companies, they hire so-called renowned experts to do either environmental impact assessment or the damage to the aquifer, etc. They cannot bite the hand that feeds them because they are paid by those. The people in Omaheke, including many top officials, have been taken to Russia, and they owe the Russians big time to start that project. So we should not relent. We should protect what government can do to basically create more jobs is to subsidize agriculture in that part of the world so that can basically employ more people so that the economy of that locality can grow. Now, let's come back to the cold feet. The cold feet, I will put that blame squarely on the economists in the ministry, in the big coalition. Unfortunately, they won't have that much maybe expertise or money. That is to show that it is going to work. As I have said, it has been shown that universal grant makes socio-economic sense. It will make your economy grow. And also, let's go to the culture of care. You as a politician or even someone employed in the Ministry of Finance, for instance, you have a couple of thousands, if not millions, in your bank account. You are having 60% of your population, the youth, receiving $0 per month. But you are now growing cold feet. Why? It is because it has not been shown to you that this is going to work. So economists, the big coalition, their partners should try to show to government through data, the CGE modeling and the like, to show that it is going to work. But even if you don't go sophisticated like that, it can just theoretically, you can show that universal basic income grant is going to work and the Namibian government can afford it.
Yeah, just a follow-up question, Dr. Kakujaha. We have these promises that are being made already by politicians. Started with the late president in December in his Christmas address, or was it New Year address, where he said that he wanted to increase the old age pension to $3,000 before he leaves office. He was due to leave in March next year. Netumbo Ndaitwa, the current vice president of the country, a week or two ago also made a similar remark, saying she wishes to fulfill the wish of the late president by actually implementing that $3,000 per month. But in April, I don't know at what event, the Minister of Finance was speaking, and he said that if that was to be implemented, that he was speaking before Meme Netumbo spoke recently. He spoke in April, and he was saying it would cost government 15 billion to realize that. And he theoretically sort of said schools would have to be closed down if that was to be implemented, because $15 billion is nearly or more than what the Minister of Education actually gets from government. He is painting a picture of impossibility, saying it is not as easy as said. Where are we going to get money to implement such a huge request by the big coalition?
Yes. Toivo, we are not saying tomorrow. We are saying we should plan for that, and we can get that money for that. And that money is going to make the economy grow. It is going to broaden your tax base. It is going... Look, Toivo, you are talking about schools. Schools where kids are going on an empty stomach. Kids who have stunted growth. Kids who are having stunted brains. Is that an investment? That is why we are saying a universal basic income grant makes a huge positive economic impact as well as investment. So what we are saying is that you are talking about education, but kids are dying of hunger. What is that? What we are saying now, the question is, where are we going to get the money? Let me quickly go to three options. The three options is, say you use your own money, the nation's money, that is VAT or another tax. Another one is budget deficit financing. You borrow to do that. The Namibians, on the tax side, you may say they are heavily taxed already, but what will happen is that this money is going to come back to them in one way or another to create more wealth for the nation. So they should not cry much about that, because it'll just a little bit of money. Toivo, let me tell you this. What I'm saying is that you collect money from the poorest of the poorest. The VAT is one of the bigger chunk of your revenue. Yeah, you collect from everyone, including those ones in the shacks. You go and build a house called the State House, a 30-room to one. Money that you have robbed or collected from some people or a family of 10 sharing one check. Is that fair? It is not. And what we are saying is that what we are proposing here is not something that is going to make you bankrupt. It is something that will make every Namibian at least to feel like a Namibian. That Namibian youth that who wakes up in the morning with zero. Tell me, Toivo, how are you going to look for work if you don't have money? How are you going to catch a cab to go to an interview to town? How are you going to go and be connected to internet so that you can see what jobs are there on the market, etc., etc. So what we are proposing here is not only something that is maybe to quarrel government or something like that. So the the Minister of Finance, in his short-sightedness, or maybe not employing all the tools in his ministry, like the CGE modeling, for instance, to see how that 5,000 is going to make the economy grow and how that is going to reduce inequality. Inequality itself, it is basically something that is going to reverse the gains of the Namibian independence. And if we won't go ahead, I would wanted to talk about the 3,000 but old age grant, but I'll stop here.
Okay, Doctor. So, Tjipura, this battle has been fought since the mid-2000s, 2005 or so. 19 years, there's no breakthrough. Where does the courage that you are using to persist with this issue come from? Where is that hope coming from? Because many people who had different other ideas, once they were rejected for 5 years or 3 years, people said, no, then this government will never listen to us. For you, 19 years. But last week, you were still marching for this.
I think before I get to that, I will just quickly comment on the aspect of where the money will come from.
Yes, please.
Yes. I think if there's no awareness on this, about 10 billion, of Namibia's, money goes out through illicit funds from, the mining industry or multinational companies, that extract, our minerals in our country. So I think in terms of, regaining, these revenues, government should see, a necessity or an urgency to, reform, its tax policies, because it's one thing that, we can use to fund the basic income grant. Just imagine $10 billion that we lose each year through, simply just not having the proper policies to extract revenue from our mining industries. With regards to where our passion comes from, it's what we see on a daily basis, because we have, or we're on the ground ourselves. We see how people live. We see, life of an average Namibian on a daily basis. I think why people like, government officials don't see the need to, continue pushing, for the basic income grant. People like Bishop Kameta, who are, part of the coalition, maybe why they gave up is because they don't see what's actually happening on the ground. Because we see what's happening on the ground. We see how, kids, live on things like breadcrumbs. Because last week, when I was on my way to school, a child came to me and asked, "Can I please get, a $1?" And I was like, "Oh, for what?" It's like, "No, I'm gonna buy breadcrumbs." This is disheartening, because what do you mean an average child lives on breadcrumbs a day? That is not healthy, number one. And how does that contribute, to their, development as a child? So I think our passion also comes from, our mentors as well. You see, people, that have been in the coalition ever since, members of the coalition that push us and say, "Guys, continue the fight." You see, because even, planning the march wasn't as easy as, the outcome seemed, because, we had to, go to different places, do activations, tell people about the BIG, because people are hard-headed when it comes to things like, getting free money from government, because they'll be like, where's the money going to come from? People are really, struggling to give us a child grant. Where will they get money to give us, to give everyone $500? So I think it's also what we see from what the community itself is also demanding, because, as much as, the outcome that we wanted from, the amount of people that were present at the march, we saw that people really want this to be done. And, just how vibrant they were, and, how they were pushing towards this, I think is what, kept us going, is also what will keep us going in the future, because we've received close to 50,000 petitions, some that were from abroad, from different parts of Namibia. So I think with regards to the momentum as well, if it was not for, the people themselves wanting this to be implemented, motivation from our side would also not be as strong as it is right now, because, we see that people want this, we see that people actually need this. Because, I mean, look at, things like malnutrition. People, 1.4 million Namibian dies, Namibian dying of hunger. Yeah. So I think it's very concerning, and it's something that's also pushing us forward to see, government, look at what is happening. What will you then do about this? Implement, a BIG. Yeah.
I understand. In closing, Dr. Kakujaha, look, I am not oblivious to the fact that we are really in trouble as a country. I think the poverty levels are really, really concerning. I mean, given our relatively small population, given the political stability that we have, I thought we could use that as a springboard, really, to do things better. But my last question to you, Doctor, then is the welfare state that I suppose we are trying to create here. Why don't, because I find the idea very unrealistic. Maybe I should educate myself more, but because if you go to the Scandinavian countries, Tjipura spoke about Finland, I think countries like Denmark and others, Norway, they are in that bracket of welfare states. They are really taken care of by their governments, but they don't quite do what we are asking to be done here. Well, why don't we emulate some of those examples that sound to me more practical?
The third way to basically bankroll the universal basic income grant, or maybe let me quickly say that, let me get out of my emotions and come back to economics and say, universal basic income grant is going to work, and it is going to stimulate the economy. The economy is going to work well. For my fellow economists, what we should do is to look at this issue as economists and not as accountants. We should look at the cost and benefits of these. I have said you are pumping so much medication to educate dying kids. What good is that? So you subtract those standard growth plus those who die of hunger from the benefits, and it could be negative. You pump all those billions there. Let's come to the Scandinavian countries. One of the models, like what Norway is doing, is what we woke up after 30 years and created the Velvicia Wealth Fund. The Velvicia Wealth Fund is where we are saying that should be the third option. That third option, the rents from our national resources. And Namibia is going to be an oil-producing country very soon. All that money you put in that, you don't put it in the pockets of the politically connected elite, but you put it because resources are not for the elite, but for the Namibian people. So you cannot say the elite are having millions in their bank accounts and the other Namibians are not. That is a rip-off. So the Scandinavian Norway, for instance, their oil riches had been put in their wealth fund, which is yielding billions of dollars for the nation, and that is how they do it. For us here, our late president, for instance, on Al Jazeera, was on record saying the resources does not belong to us. That mindset of government should change. How will it change? By the pressure of the Namibian people to say the resources are ours, the government is our representative. They should get better deals out of that. What Tjipura mentioned about transfer payments and the billions that goes out, that is very, very difficult to control because we don't have that kind of expertise in NAMRA and the like. But what we see are basically the shareholding of our government in those companies so that money can come into the wealth fund, grow the wealth fund, and make Namibians wealthy again. Let them live. I really sometimes, even after economics, I go back and say, how would you feel, Toivo, to wake up for 365 days with zero amount in your pocket? Thank you.
Wonderful. No, thank you, Dr. Kakujaha, for your very brave and valuable input. We hope to have you on the show again in the future, not only when we talk about basic income grant, but other topics too. So it was a pleasure having you. Tjipura, very pleased to have had you on the set. Thank you for your input. We hope that the breakthrough is coming soon.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you, both of you. That is tonight's version of the agenda with Dr. Omu Kakujaha and Tjipura Tjipura, talking about basic income grant and that it can actually be implemented in our country. Thank you for watching.